Hey, it's Mazzy. Welcome back. There's a series of books, I guess various editions, called 1001 Records You Should Hear Before You Die. I've never owned one of those books. And to be honest with you, I never looked through them because I figure I got all these records. And what I've heard, that there are a lot of the typical records. There are probably a few things that I haven't heard. Obviously, depending on who you are, they could be a very valuable book. And yes, probably some major releases, some little cult classics in the various editions. You can see them all here. Here's several covers right now over me. Insert photos here, there, everywhere. But there's a thread going around. Alan, the Static Traveler, a Brit, Northern England now, started this thread just to show 5 records. Basically, I am doing this kind of like an It's the Music Stupid, like it's about the music, and I like showing 5 records. So these 5 records are not the very best records in my collection, but they're just very interesting records. Several I know I've shown before, and I'm repeating myself, but I love them so much, and I think before you die, you should listen to these records, whether you like them or not. You should check them out. I want to start with a record from 1994, and this is the Latin Playboys. This is an offshoot of Los Lobos. This is a wonderful record, and the cover design is by members of the band Luis Perez and Tom Rashawn, a friend of ours here on the channel. Great designer, great art director in Los Angeles, worked for Warner Brothers and Capitol and part of the Los Angeles Free Music Society. Is that right? Free art, avant-garde, out there stuff. Great designer, great person, great human being. But let's talk about the music here, because that's what it's about. What's great about this record, now Mitchell Froom kind of co-produced this, who worked with Los Lobos on several things. And so it's David Hidalgo, one of the great singers, I think, in this genre of music. Of course, the main, not the soul singer of Los Lobos, he has the most beautiful tenor voice he has. Great player, and I love Los Lobos. I always say that I think it's one of the great American bands still standing, Los Lobos, absolutely. But this is an offshoot, and what's interesting about this, it's a lot of everything from tape loops to various instrumentation mixes, some field recordings in here, and it opens up like a field recording, as if you went through taping some musicians in East LA or the old Mission District of San Francisco, a very Latin neighborhood. And it's got that kind of just gritty field recording sound, almost like lo-fi to its max. And then at times it opens up. That track that opens up is Via La Raza. And there's like sound effects and recordings and people talking. And it's just a stunning opening to a record. There's a lot of like compressed sounds in here where it's a dark ambient record at times, and then it blossoms into some great Latin melodies, some in Spanish, some in English. It's a stunner of an album with a lot of various percussive things. If you know what Mitchell Froom's production style, he worked with Crowded House, Suzanne Vega, who is married to for some time, and a lot of different a lot of really interesting people. It's got a little of that percussive thing that T-Bone Burnett does in his album, where it's really a lot of different instruments, acoustic instruments and percussive instruments are used just to make these various sounds. And again, sometimes it's a sound that you don't expect that's not a hi-fi sound. It might be something done on probably maybe even an iPhone or a personal tape recorder, and then pushed into the mix on these, tape loops and things. Just love this record. Latin Playboys, there are 2 albums under this name, offshoot. Next is an album, Mavis Staples Will Never Turn Back. This was an album by Mavis Staples, produced by Ry Cooder. This is in 2007, I believe. Yep, this came out originally on Anti Records. She released 3 records in about a decade's period. Interesting artists who produced them. Ry Cooder's one. Who else did she use? Jeff Tweedy did one, and Ben Harper did another one. And they're very different, but of course you got that great gospel soul singing of Mavis Staples. I mean, to me, the Staples singers, who came from the gospel area and crossed over into soul music, and in the, mid 1970s. Had some major hits too. Pop Staples on guitar. The tail end of The Last Waltz. Unfortunately, they weren't there in person, but they're tacked on there with a beautiful rendition with the band, and I just love that. But Mavis Staples will never turn back. This is a thematic album, somewhat of a concept album of the civil rights movement. Some traditional songs ending with Jesus on the Main Line, and I'm embarrassed to say the first time I heard that traditional song was by Ry Cooder. I think it was on Paradise and Lunch. A wonderful, wonderful record. Just a great kind of gospel-y, a soulful, bluesy record. There's like 3 songs on here, I believe, that are co-written by Mavis and Ry Cooder and Joaquin Cooder, Ry's son and great percussionist in his own right. And just a series, Down in Mississippi, Eyes on the Prize, We Shall Not Be Moved, In the Mississippi River. It goes on, but it's really kind of a document of a time past, a time we're in now, a time that seems to never end in America. But what a beautiful, beautiful record here. And again, it really, it's a character of the civil rights movement is the main character of this record. I just think it's a fantastic record. Represent John Lewis, the late John Lewis, writes the intro in the gatefold here. But Ry Cooder produced album by Mavis Staples from 27, a record I think you should hear. Any record by Mavis Staples, just pick it up. They're all good. This record I know I've shown, and I beat a dead horse showing this record. This is the second LP by John Simon, Journey. This is that time with Warner Brothers. This is 1972. Warner Brothers was all in on artist integrity. I recently listened, I'm all in on Randy Newman recently. I just started reading the Robert Hilburn biography on Randy Newman. And goes back to those Warner Brothers days. You're looking back on it thinking, there was the days that record companies didn't tell you what to do, what not to do, what's commercial, what's not commercial. And Warner Brothers was one of those great labels. Nothing commercial about this record, yet it's very accessible and really good if you can get through and get past John Simon's really thin, light voice. But John Simon, major producer in his own right, produced Cheap Thrills, Big Brother and Holding Company, the first couple of albums by the band. Well, great producer. If you know the live band album, the double live Rock of Ages album, those great kind of New Orleans style horn arrangements, John Simon's the guy that arranged those with Alan Toussaint, I think. At least arranged the whole thing, and maybe Alan Toussaint worked on the horns there. Same with The Last Waltz. He was working on with the band on some of those arrangements, and it's fabulous. This is a sort of a popular, in the Warner Brothers vein of the Randy Newmans and the Harry Nilssons, but it's more of a jazz record. He's a piano player at heart. And the arrangements with horns like simmering and then building up in that, Slim Pickens in the Kitchen Don't Make It at All, like a 7, 8, 9 minute jazz tune. Living in the Land of Sunshine, Vagabond. It's just, it's a soulful New Orleans feel to it from this East Coast New England Jew that does these great arrangements in the studio here. So his piano solos are incredible. So if you like piano jazz with the kind of New Orleans horn thing, Alan Toussaint's a good example of some of that. This is an amazing record, amazing sounding record. It totally bombed, didn't do anything. His first album, I got into it because those Warner Brothers Lost Lita samplers that came out in the late 60s, early 70s, $2 for 2 LPs. There was a song from that first album called The Elves Song. Hilarious song. And then I just continued and got these 2 albums, and that was it. This came with an insert. I don't know if they're still around, if you can find this album even. It's just a cool album. Look at this. What the hell? There you go. I know I've showed this album before, but in the, since these are records you should listen to before you die, I'm showing Journey, 1972 album by John Simon. Then another one I know I've shown too, and this is a Light in the Attic reissue, but these are albums from 1967, this particular one. This is the Free Design, and its Kites Are Fun. This is sunshine pop, upbeat, I Love America type music, produced by Enoch Light. Now, Enoch Light was the guy from Command Records in the late 1950s, early 1960s that did those ping pong stereo records that we now call bachelor pad records, with those covers by the artist Joseph Abers, who did all the spheres and dots. Very modern, very, Madman-esque in terms of the style of things. And again, the time of this sort of total stereo surround and that perfect separation, left, right, wide stereo, which I love. But this is a vocal group. So instead of those instrumental ping pong records that are jazzy and bossa nova and modern in terms of space age modern stuff, this was right in the middle of psychedelia, this upbeat pop, almost like, think of The Fifth Dimension, Up and Away, and My Beautiful Balloon. Although these just great harmonies, bop shuado, bop boo bop bop stuff. Stereo has come of age. Project 3 Records, the offshoot of Command, the state of the art. Project 3 Records have achieved total sound, amazing recordings, amazing production, and just kites are fun. It's just so upbeat, poppy, and the world we're living in right now, in this friggin' world, this is like the perfect antidote. It's like the sugar pill that makes everyone feel happy and innocuous and takes that chip out of your brain that, that relates to all the crap going on. This is a fun-ass record. These are out of print, but I know Light in the Attic issued a bunch of these. I think I have 3 of them. You can occasionally find originals. I don't think they're so expensive, but the Light in the Attic ones are fantastic with a great, essays in here and the original information of it. But Enoch Light presents the free design. New, exciting, and different. The fresh, young sound of the free design. Kites are fun. What a cover, too, right? And lastly, another record from 1967, Zodiac, Cosmic Sounds. This was reissued on a record store day maybe 6 years ago in day glow vinyl, glow in the dark. But if you can find an original in stereo, you have to have this record in stereo. This was a brainchild of Jock Holtzman when the Moog synthesizer was really starting out. Bernie Krause, with Bernie and Krause, but Bernie, I think it was Bernie, or was it Krause? One of the two. They were the sales reps on the West Coast of the Moog synthesizer. They actually had a booth at the Monterey Pop Festival, that wonderful pop festival in '67, where they were trying to sell and promote the Moog synthesizer, the Robert Moog creation. I know Mickey Dolenz was one of the first. George Harrison was one of the first owners. Celestial Counterpoint with words and music. Literally this goes through Aries through Pisces. Virgo, the perpetual perfectionist. It's kind of psychedelic, reverb-drenched, effects-ridden guitars and percussion and drums and Moog sounds with the narrator, the words spoken by Cyrus Farnian, who's a Pisces. I tell you what sign every member of this is, who has this great, heroic voice. This is a record that says, must be played in the dark. So the original music was composed, arranged, and conducted by Mort Garson, who's a Cancer, who has a lot of one of the early electronic recording artists, producers too, of the day. Just great artist of the time, experimental studio musicians working on this. I just love this record. Electronic instruments, Paul Beaver, that's the Beaver. That's the guy I'm thinking of. So not Krause, not Bernie Krause, Paul Beaver is on here. And produced by Alex Hazalev, who's also a Cancer. I'm a Virgo. I'm Mazzy. I'm a Virgo on the cusp of Leo and Virgo. But I think this is a wonderful, it's kitsch. It's definitely a record of its time. But every year I pull this out and I blast it at night, turn the lights out and just listen. I don't smoke bowls. I'm not into the drug scene, but this is that perfect kind of record. I bet you Seth Rogen has a copy of this record, right? But Elektra Records, wonderful records. So these are 5 records out of the 1,001 records you should own. Again, this is a thread going on. All the Brits it's all over the British vinyl community world. And supposedly you're supposed to showcase 5 records that are not in the book. Don't choose any of the records from the book. And for me, since I don't have the book, I have no idea if these are in the book. Maybe one of them is. I don't know. You can look and tell me in the comments. Thanks for watching. I'll put a link below to a few of these other videos that I saw that are presenting the same theme, but different titles. Thank you. Mazzy loves you.